As we go on, our time is just fleeting, but I want to just go back into something that we started last Sunday. If you remember, we started our sermon series titled The Armor of God, and it's something that we're going to be discussing the next few weeks. And so if you have your Bibles with you, I just want to refresh our memory on what we are talking about these weeks. This is the book of Ephesians. We are in the 6th chapter, beginning with verse 10, Ephesians 6:10. Finally, be strengthened by the Lord and by his vast strength. Put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the schemes of the devil. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers of this darkness, against evil spiritual forces in the heavens. For this reason, take up the full armor of God so that you may be able to resist the evil day, and having prepared everything, take your stand. Something that we began last Sunday, and Vitali led us and really spoke about and dedicated a good amount of last week's sermon to really highlight who our enemy is and the fact that we are in a battle. And the battle is a spiritual one that we are waging. And whether we know it or not, we are in a battle. Whether you know it or not, you are in a spiritual battle. Now, an important element that I want us to just focus in, this is in verse 13. I want to repeat what Paul says. He says, and having prepared everything, take your stand, or to take your stand. The importance in this battle that we are in is preparation. And not just this battle, but really in life, like being prepared is very important. Like, I don't know if anyone of you goes camping. I'm sure a lot of us do, but like, I'm not that guy, but I don't know, and maybe you're that guy, or your dad's that guy, but like, sometimes like you're at camp and like you forgot to bring something and you're like, oh, I forgot to grab whatever it may be, matches, a lighter, propane, maybe an axe, maybe a hammer, whatever it is. But there are some people, I know we have some of these brothers in our church, like they come and they have everything. And like, if you're camping with these people, I'm going to go to so-and-so and he's going to have what I need. Or maybe our brothers, maybe sometimes you want to like change oil on your car or change the brakes or do something. And like, you're under the car and you're like, all right, I'm probably going to need this and this. And like, you're missing something. You're not prepared with all the tools that you need. And then you got to get from under the car, go back to your toolbox and get whatever maybe wrench or socket that you're missing because you were not as prepared as maybe you should have been to do this job. Or maybe in the mornings, I don't know, maybe we have morning people or not so morning people. I don't know if when you wake up, you snooze your alarm until like this is the red line. Like if I snooze it again, like bad things are going to happen. And so you snooze it to the very last minute and then you just like, you got 2 minutes, and in that 2 minutes, like chaos, you're brushing your teeth, doing your hair, getting dressed, and everything's happening because, well, you're trying to prepare yourself. And many times when we're in a rush, we tend to miss some things in our preparation. When we don't have enough time dedicated for preparing something, many times we miss things. One of the things that I love about being married is that, my wife, she's at home, and I think most of our wives, they take care of our homes. And my wife's approach is like, the house always has to be clean. And, I'm like, why? We can just clean it on Saturdays. But the approach is like, well, we always have to be ready for guests. And that, I think it makes sense. I remember one time she was away with the kids on a trip earlier this year to visit family in South Carolina. So I was home alone. And so I was like, well, I'm going to do things my way, like there were some dishes and I'm like, we'll just do them at the end of, 10 days. What's the point of doing them every day? They're just pile grows a little, but no harm, no foul. And then, you wake up and you theoretically should make your bed. But, my thought is I'm going to come home in the evening and I'm going to unmake the bed, right? I mean, I don't know if I'm alone in thinking this. I think maybe we have some brothers that would agree with my logic. Like, you're going to unmake the bed again, right? And so what's the point of making your bed if you're going to unmake it again, right? And all this was fine, my whole theory. I kind of let the house go a little bit until I had someone that had to come to the house. And then I was in trouble. And then I had like 2 hours to do what I can, because I had an unexpected visitor come home. And maybe we've all been there. Maybe you don't even let your house go, but you're not expecting company and you get a knock on the door, and then it's like everybody is like scattering, the kids are doing everything. You're like, we got to get this place in order. And I hope you have that character in you to be prepared for everything. But when we come and we're talking about our spiritual warfare, and hear what Paul is talking about, he emphasizes this. He says, and having prepared everything. You see, the importance in this battle, really in any battle, in anything that we do, we need to be prepared. But here in this context, Paul is talking about this spiritual battle, and he says, man, in order for you to be successful, in order for you to be victorious after everything is said and done, after the dust settles, in order for you to be victorious, you need to prepare. This is not something that you don't really need to prepare. I'll be okay. I'll just, come to church once in a while, or on Sundays. I'll read my Bible on the screen in the church, and that's good. And I'll somehow be okay. And then if hard times come, I'll come to prayers. I'll come to God. I'll start reading my Bible. Friends, that's too late. And if that is your approach to your Christian life, to your relationship with God, something is wrong, because you are unprepared for this battle that is taking place in your life and in my life. And so the importance of preparation is just, it can't be overstated, how we must be prepared to fight this battle. Now, the great thing is that Paul here, he has given us an outcome. He says, if you prepare, he says, having prepared everything to take your stand, and he continues, stand therefore with truth. And if you read this whole passage of verses, standing is something that you will encounter. He says, and you will stand, and you will be able to withstand, and you will be able to resist. You see, but he's already given us the outcome. If we prepare and we take upon ourselves the armor of God, and notice that the armor is not our own. It is not our family armor. It is not my dad's armor. It says, take upon yourself whose armor? The armor of God. God has the armor provided for us. And what we must do is take it upon ourselves. And if we do so, Paul says, if you prepare everything for this battle, if you put on all of these elements that we will be going on throughout these weeks, you will win. It's not a 50-50 toss-up. It's not like, well, I'm going to prepare, I'm going to live my whole life, but then I'm going to live in fear that if something bad happens, it's a 50-50 chance. I'm going to do everything I can from my side, but then I don't know if I'm going to overcome. No, Paul says that if you prepare everything and you take upon the armor of God, you will be able to withstand. You will be able to be standing, that after this battle is over, after the dust settles, you will be standing. Friends, in every fight, in every battle, someone stands and someone falls and someone is defeated. And Paul says here that if we take upon ourselves the full armor of God, that at the end of the day, at the end of the battle, at the end of whatever situation we will be found in, although the fighting may be fierce, although the attacks of the enemy may be gnarly, but Paul says if we prepare everything, we will be the ones that will remain standing. Why? Because God is on our side. And we do not need to live in fear of failure. We do not need to live in fear of defeat, afraid that, the devil's going to come and do something to me, to my family, to my children, to my life, to my relationships, whatever it may be. Paul says that if you live a godly life and if you prepare everything, putting on the armor of God that he has provided for us, we know that we don't need to live in fear. We can live having assurance that we will be victorious because Jesus is on our side. And Paul says this. He says, nothing can ever separate us from the love of Jesus. Nothing can ever separate us. And he lists a lot of things. And in that he says, nor angels, nor demons, nor any other power. Friends, if we are prepared and if we live our life, if we are putting the armor of God upon ourselves, we can know for sure that nothing can ever overcome us. Not angels, not demons, no power. The only thing that can happen is that the devil, through his cunningness and what we heard of last Sunday of all his ways, the devil can't do anything to separate God from us, to separate us from God. God is holding us in his hand. His grasp is firmly holding us. But what the devil can do is trick us, is somehow deceive us into abandoning God, into walking away from God, into taking off this armor. You see, his plan is always the same: divide and conquer. And that is what he wants to do. And he comes into relationships, and you may have a friend, a best friend, a girlfriend, a boyfriend. I mean, like, guys' friends and girls' friends. And it's like, we were best friends, but then something happened, something simple. I don't know, maybe you've had a ruined relationship. And maybe it was something silly, something insignificant. But now you're no longer friends. You can't see each other. Why? Because the devil did something. I'm saying within the church, he divided us. He planted seed of division. And now people can't even look each other in the eyes. Why? Because they were not on guard. They allowed the devil into their heart, into their mind, into their thought process. He can come and he can ruin relationships within a family. He can plant seeds of doubt, seeds of unforgiveness within a relationship of husbands and wives, and many families end in divorce within the church. Why? Because people have allowed room. They have abandoned the armor of God, the relationship with God, and they were deceived by the devil to abandoned their armor that is provided by God. He is able to even come into churches, and he is able to separate churches. He is able to divide churches. And unfortunately, there are churches that go through such a painful process of division because there is room that is left for the enemy. The Bible tells us not to leave any room for Satan, not to leave any space, not to give him any air in my environment. There is no room for him. Friends, this is what we are called to, because our battle is not against flesh and blood, as we have heard and as we read, but it is against things that are unseen. It is a spiritual battle. Friends, but every battle that takes place in the spiritual realm, it eventually plays out in the physical realm. Right? The great battle that we know and we read about that happened when Lucifer, which was a glorious angel, he rebelled against God. This was in the spiritual realm, and him and a third of all the angels that were his followers, they were thrown down from heaven. This was a spiritual battle. This was something that did not happen in the physical world. It happened in the spiritual world. But eventually, this battle played out in the physical world. And how did it play out? Well, we remember Adam and Eve, God's creation, perfection, no sin. Everything is perfect. And then the battle that took place in the spiritual realm eventually played out in the physical realm, and then Adam and Eve are unable to withstand. And the devil is able to deceive them. And so remember, our battle is not against flesh and blood. It is not against people. It is not against individuals. But the battle that is in the spiritual realm eventually plays out in the physical realm. So eventually, many times these battles that we fight, we think that, oh, my spiritual battle is just in my prayer closet. It's just when I'm praying. Yes, that's part of it. Because there are a lot of spiritual battles for our life, for our safety that happen and we don't even know about them. You made it here to church, you drove, you parked, and you're sitting and everything is good. It is not just because you're a good driver. It is not just because you have a good car. But it is those things, but it also because the hand of God's protection has brought you to this place. And it's something that maybe is not as tangible that we can't see, but it is truth that there are battles that happen and we never even know that they even took place. The victory came because we were in prayer, because we were in fasting, because we are preparing ourselves. But there are battles that we take part in. There are battles that although they are not against flesh and blood, they are against the things that stand behind the people that we encounter. Now, let me give you an example. Remember when Jesus, he asked his disciples, who do people say that I am? And he had a lot of answers, but the greatest answer and the right answer was Peter. And he says, you are Christ, Son of the living God. You are the Messiah. And Jesus says some wonderful words to Peter. And then Jesus says that I should suffer and die. And what does Peter do? Peter takes him to the side and he says, oh Lord, may no such thing be with you. May this never happen to you. How does Jesus respond to Peter? He just really said the most complimentary things to. How does he respond to Peter? He says, get behind me, Satan. Now this is Peter. This is one of the 3 beloved apostles. What do you mean, get behind me, Satan? Jesus, what do you mean? What Jesus is saying is, Peter, what you are saying now is Satan using your immaturity, using your nearsightedness, Satan using you, your flesh, you as a person for his benefit, for his battle. Friends, many times, although yes, our battles are not against a person, but God can use people. The devil can use people in our life. They can be near us, close to us, people we work together with, we encounter. Now, I don't encourage anyone to tell anyone to, get behind me, Satan, but understand that the devil can use people's ignorance and short-sightedness, immaturity, or other things to attack us personally. There are these battles that happen, and Satan can do everything that he can in order to defeat us. How does this happen on a tangible level for us? What battles do you face? Well, one of the ways that Satan attacks us is he tempts us sexually. And Paul says to Corinthians, he says that he's talking to married people, but he says, I'll quote this, do not deprive one another except when you agree for a time to devote yourselves to prayer, then come again, otherwise Satan may tempt you sexually to fall. But not just married people, also to single people, to youth. One of the ways that the devil attacks you is to tempt you with sexual immorality. That is one of the ways that he tries to defeat you in your life. And that is why we take upon ourselves the armor of God to be able to withstand. Satan can urge us not to forgive others. Paul says, when you forgive this man, I forgive him too. And when I forgive whatever needs to be forgiven, I do so with Christ's authority for your benefit, so that Satan will not outsmart us, for we are familiar with his evil schemes. Another attack of the enemy, another things that he does to attack us is unforgiveness. And he will do what he can and put you in a tough situation. Maybe they say that the people that can really hurt you are those that are really close to you. And sometimes people around us can hurt us. And then we are faced with the decision to forgive or not. And Satan will just put these thoughts and moments in your life so that you would not forgive. So that relationship is ruined. You can't look that person in the eyes anymore, and whoever it may be. Satan can torment us through a thorn in the flesh. And Paul says, especially because of the extraordinary revelations, therefore, so that I would not exalt myself, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to torment me, so that I would not exalt myself. Physical disability is something that I don't know. I think it's very hard to deal with. And I think when it comes to someone close to you, either in your friend group and your family that has a physical disability, you become a little bit closer to the reality and fact of how difficult that is. And Paul says that he had a thorn in the flesh. He doesn't say that the devil placed it there. He had no authority. But he had a thorn in his flesh, and the devil used this thorn in Paul's flesh to torment him. He used it to ridicule him. He used it to try to place Paul in a place of maybe depression or self-pity or whatever it may be. And that's what the devil does. If we have a physical ailment, maybe a disease, a sickness, or a disability, and the devil can come and begin whispering something into our ear, into your heart, and say, oh, do you think that you're not worthy enough, or God doesn't love you enough, and it is only you who are suffering. It is only you who has this disability. And the devil can use a thorn in your flesh or some kind of thing in your body or some kind of a physical disability to lead people to depression and even suicide. This is what the devil does. And many people, the statistics aren't too great for people that have physical disabilities. Many of them are depressed. Many of them commit suicide. Why? Because the devil is using that to torment them. But there are other people. There's a man named Nick. I'm sure you've all seen him. He has no limbs, no arms, no legs. It could be the hardest of disabilities. You have nothing. You have your torso and you have your head. But this man is one of the greatest evangelists of this time, proclaiming the goodness of God, proclaiming the mercy of God, proclaiming the grace of God. Is a person that did not allow the thorn in his flesh to be used by Satan. Because I don't know, whatever situation we are found in, Satan will use whatever he can to attack us. Another thing Paul says is he says that we wanted very much to come to you, and I, Paul, tried again and again, but Satan prevented us. He's talking to the Thessalonians. He said, I wanted to visit you. I wanted to be with you, but I couldn't because Satan prevented us. Theologians, there's many ideas. What does that mean? How did he prevent Paul from going to the church in Thessalonica? Was it a physical thing? Was it a spiritual thing? We don't know. But he prevented Paul from doing his ministry. He prevented Paul from doing what God called him to do. Maybe sank a ship, maybe brought in bad weather, maybe, whatever it may have been. We don't know. But somehow Satan intervened and prevented Paul from doing his ministry, from walking before the Lord like he was called. Friends, let me tell you, Satan will do so much in our life to prevent us from walking out our Christian life before God. And it can be a simple thing of like you forgetting to, maybe setting your alarm or oversleeping your alarm. And so now you have no time to spend your time in devotion. If you do that in the morning, you got to get up and go because you forgot, or you get so busy, or you had to do something, or you got to change your oil or change a tire, whatever it may be. He will do something to prevent us from doing what God has called us to do. And so although our battle is a spiritual one, it is not against flesh and blood. But at times, the devil will use people and situations to tempt us and to prevent us from doing the things that we are called to do, to tempt us with sin, to tempt us and put us in situations because he just wants to see me and you abandon God, abandon this armor that is given to us by him, and then come and strike us when we are in our weakest moments. What I want to close on today, we'll have to continue the truth part another time, but You see, Satan, he wants to hit us when we are at our weakest point. He wants to find you in your most vulnerable place. And at that moment, come in and do something and cause something that he can. This is his goal. This is his desire for me and for you to lay in defeat. But we have a great promise. As Paul says here, that if we take upon ourselves, if we prepare everything, take upon the armor of God and take our stand, we will be victorious because God is with us. This is the promise that we have. This is the grace given to us, that God is always with us. And how great of a promise that is, friends. That regardless of where I am in life, as we heard before when Paul says that nothing can separate us from the love of Jesus, from the love of Christ, as long as I am walking towards him, as long as I am with him, nothing can separate me. You made a mistake. It happens. The Bible says the righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up. So if you were tempted, and remember, we're not tempted by God. James says, God does not tempt us. God will never tempt us with sin, with a way to fall, to put something in front of us and see, oh, Slavik, how good is he? Is he gonna stand here or withstand this temptation or not? No, it is the devil that tempts us. The devil that tries to divide us. The devil that plants seed of doubt and unforgiveness and sexual temptation, and using whatever means he can to get us to do one thing, to abandon God, to lose faith in God, to question God and say, I don't know. And it is at that moment when we begin to question, when we begin to doubt, he comes and he hits as hard as he can. So I invite us, all of us, as we live this life, as we are in this spiritual battle, I call us to a time of preparation. We don't know what lies ahead. We don't know what tomorrow will bring, but what we can do today is to prepare ourselves. Is to prepare ourselves, and the way we do that is by digging deep into this word. It is by spending time in prayer with God. It is by dedicating ourselves, devoting ourselves to him, to the ministry, to the church, to whatever it may be, whatever his calling is for my life. Even if the devil wants to prevent it, I will make a way. I will find time. I will find the resources. I will find the energy, whatever it is, but I will fulfill God's mission for my life. And if that is my approach, then we know we will always be victorious. Because Jesus, the spiritual battle that happened, that eventually played out with Adam and Eve, Jesus, who was in the spiritual realm, who was outside of the physical realm, it says he came out of the spiritual, he came into the physical, and he took upon flesh, and he lived his life, and then he was crucified, and on that cross he had victory, and in that victory is our hope. And it is because of that victory we're able to stand boldly, because his victory is our victory. And regardless of what is happening in my life, maybe today, maybe I'm going through a crisis today and I am not prepared, you still have hope. Walk back to Jesus. If you can't walk, crawl back to Jesus. Come back to him, and he will lift you up. He will wash you, redeem you, and put you back on the path of righteousness. So I call us to stand this morning, and we're going to come in prayer, and we're going to thank him for what he has done. We're going to thank him for his goodness. We're going to thank him for his love. And we're going to thank him for his victory, that he came, he took upon flesh, he died, and was made victorious. Let us pray.